know if we can reach each other, but you know, we'll do our best. Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks for having us up for this. This has been awesome to be able to kind of see the brew day going on and be able to come here and get to tell this story. So thank you guys for inviting me.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
For sure. Well, Stephanie was very apprehensive about having me. She's like, I got to talk to Eric Walters.
He's on strike too.
He's a jerk.
Oh, no. Why?
What
What did you do?
footage.
Wait, I got to know.
I was
What's
just
the
joking.
story?
Wait, what? Am I on a strike?
Eric was giving very big bear hugs last time.
Oh, yes.
You remember that?
Yep, that was, I remember that. So we started off with a podcast at Canyon Diablo Distillery. That day, yep. And Luke was driving, so I was tasting all of the spirits. And then we got here. You guys were having it was the women's brew.
It was the women's brew.
Yeah. So I had obviously had some great beers on the patio, and then went to, where was it? Where'd we go?
We were at Yucca North.
Yucca North, and those church musics were flowing like water. And bear hugs were going all around.
I got a good one from you this morning, so you know I was stoked. I was happy to get it.
Well, so let's meet everybody. Let's start with you. Who are you, and what is your role with your company?
I'm Jeff Eaton Jr. Got to pay respect to the dad.
Yeah.
Director of Brewery Operations at Mother Road Brewing Company.
Excellent.
My name's Stephanie Henderson, Director of Sales at Mother Road.
Excellent. And this guy?
Jeremy DiConcini, one of the original founders of MotoSonora Brewing.
We got to give your brother a shout out over there, right?
Yeah, Jeff's over there. He's just having beers and chatting. He's outside out of the limelight.
We joked that he was witness protection, and then we realized he's actually the one that finds people in witness protection. He's got that look to him. But
yeah. He's got to protect. I mean, you know, most people who's starting out in the beer industry, you got to have a second job. He's a hitman.
Yeah. Well, now his cover's blown. Now he's got to change it up a little bit. But no. So this is exciting. This beer you guys are doing. You're actually doing 2 beers. Right. Today was the first brew day at Mother Road, and then tomorrow you're going to drive to Fountain Hills to where you guys going to go for lunch.
So we're going to Phil's Filling Station.
Which is a great name.
I know,
Yeah,
and
right?
the owner's name is Phil. It wasn't just a play on words or anything like that. But no, we picked it out because they carry both of our beer, which is great. But you know, the whole point of this collab was to really highlight our similarities as breweries, which is our love for cars, motorcycles, travel, the Southwest, history. So, you know, being in his old 50s-esque diner, he's got all the Coca-Cola memorabilia.
Oh, nice.
And it's just really sign of the time back in the 50s. And, yeah, so.
Is he ready for the group of people who are going to be hungry and
I warned him.
ready?
I warned him.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. But, no, it should be good. It's going to be a fun road trip.
Excellent. Well, so we'll start with the beer that was made today. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit about this. This is a pretty cool brew that you guys did.
So we decided on a smoked Scotch ale.
How do you decide on that? Like, how does that happen?
Well, originally we were just throwing out a bunch of ideas, and I've been wanting to make a smoked beer for a while.
Okay. Have you never made a smoked beer before?
Personally, no, but I've drank a lot of really good ones.
Okay.
Years ago, one of my favorite beers, I don't believe the brewery's in existence anymore, but they did a smoked Doppelbock.
Ooh,
And ever since then, I've been like, I want to create something like that.
Yeah.
And so throwing out ideas, and people were like, oh, yeah, Scotch ale. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
And, you know, we teamed up with a local barbecue spot that we collaborate with a lot here, Satchmo's Barbecue.
Yeah.
And we brought him some malt, and he smoked some malt for us and did some trials, and we came back and, hey, you know, let's do this one. We really like this one. And so he smoked a bunch of Munich malt for us, and you know, really excited to brew with it. So
how did he do that? How did they do? Yeah,
Can I interrupt with a question? So it's a different smoker than where the meat is going. Just to be
yes,
clear.
Totally different smoker than the meat is going.
We mashed in with some bacon. It was kind of weird, but
yeah. Nobody brought bacon this morning.
What? Yeah. What the hell?
Chaos.
Come on.
Pure chaos.
If I would have known, I would have brought some bacon. I would have brought the bacon for sure.
The George Foreman in the back.
Yeah.
I turned it on with my foot. Yeah.
So this is a cold smoker. And unfortunately, I didn't get to check it out. He told me I had to sign an NDA if I wanted to check it out.
Really?
Yeah.
It's like
he's serious business.
Wow.
He designed this cold smoker on his own, and he was willing to let me come in and check it out. I just didn't have the time to get away from the brewery to go do this. But
I mean, does he have an NDA like ready to go?
I think so.
All right.
He sounded pretty
that's
prepared.
Pretty serious.
like-
no, here it is. Sign it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I already sent you the link for it. Like, what? Oh, nice.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll have to have my lawyer review
Right.
this.
So that's interesting. So what is? I mean, I don't know much about barbecue.
So cold
but-
smoke. So
Yeah.
it's indirect heat. So you're smoking barbecue.
Yeah.
It's over hot smoke.
Yeah.
I don't know how he quote unquote cools the smoke down, but smoke's over here or fire's over here, and then smoker's over here. So somehow it cools down in between the two.
Interesting.
Less aggressive than an actual hot smoker, I guess.
Meaning it's going to be a lot less smoky. Or
Yeah,
is
but it was interesting. So in the malt trials he did a dry smoke and a wet smoke. The difference being is as he was smoking the wet version, he was spraying all the malt with water. And as that water hydrated the husk skins, it allowed the smoke to absorb into that even more.
Wow.
So when we had these side by side, the wet smoke, you could totally smell the pecan wood on there. Real aggressive, real in your face.
Okay.
Personally, I really liked it. I really wanted to use it, but we put it through our sensory panel.
Sure. Yeah.
And everybody felt that the dry smoke was going to give a better flavor, more approachable.
More subtle.
Yeah. Maybe not so as subtle, but it's not going to be a bacon beer.
Okay. Okay.
We didn't want to make a bacon beer.
Right.
Not now.
Not yet.
now.
Yeah. Well, so how did you feel when you learned it was going to be a smoked Scotch ale?
Well, yeah, it's tough because we were talking about we wanted to release these beers at the Strong Beer Fest, and it's 2 breweries and a lot of brewers and a lot of different ideas, and it's like, okay, well, let's just figure this out because it's a tough call. Everyone has their styles, and we've never made a smoked beer of any kind, and so it sounded aggressive. And then, they're talking like, all right, we're going to get this barbecue guy to smoke the malt. I'm like, okay, never made a smoked beer. Certainly have never smoked any malt. Yeah. I'm like, this is definitely kind of over my skis here. But I can tell you the malt, smelling it and tasting it this morning was amazing. The wort was great. I mean, it's too soon to tell what the yeast is going to do to it, but I think that's going to be a really, really cool beer.
Oh, yeah.
And the base being a Scotch ale, right? Which...
we got to use one of my favorite malts, Golden Promise.
Okay.
Traditional English malt. So that was fun to use in there. We didn't go with the very traditional 4 or 5 hour boil.
Okay.
Didn't
with
quite.
the Scotch ale, that's typically what.
So some people will actually take first runnings, have a small amount in their kettle, stop collecting wort, and just boil that small amount, and you get a lot of caramelization. And that's where a lot of color comes from, is that caramelization. And then after boiling that for a little bit, then they start running off again and collecting more.
Interesting.
So we didn't quite have the time in our production schedule to spend, all day making one batch of beer.
Right.
So, it still has some really good color, and, I'm excited to try it. Yeah. So it's going to pack a punch. It's 8.5% ABV.
Ooh, okay. Yeah.
So
both of the beers, you guys, we'll get into the one that's being made at MotoSonora tomorrow, but they're both some big boys. Sorry about that spit that just flew onto your leg.
I caught it.
Not in your beer glass.
I have an NDA actually ready for you.
It's true. Shit. All right, strike 3. I'm out. No, that's is that typical for a Scotch ale for it to be that high, or is it an ABV, or is it
traditionally no?
No, okay,
lower.
Does that tilt into the wee heavy category?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, just doesn't sound as cool. Actually, wee heavy sounds smoked wee heavy sounds good.
Yeah,
Right?
Yeah.
you can think of some really good names with that.
Yeah,
Gosh.
So, all right. So, how long is it going to be until? So, will Strong Beer be the release of this beer?
I think we're going to launch it in our tap rooms first.
Okay.
So Moto will take their brew and launch it for their community. We'll do the same 2 days before Strong Beer.
Okay.
But at Strong Beer, we'll be right next to each other and be able to direct the guests to one another. But we thought it would be a good idea to kind of throw it on tap for our local communities who have supported us for so long, and then just kind of roll it out a couple days later.
Yeah.
And then it hits general market after that.
Meaning, like, so what is there? Is this one batch?
If you want it, come and get it. It'll be there for you. But
So-
yes, one batch.
A one batch. Okay. All right. You're going to be packaging it all as far as probably not cans or anything like that.
Just draft
kegs.
only.
Just
Yeah.
draft.
Just kegs.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. And then, so what's being made tomorrow at MotoSonora?
Well, tomorrow's just the road trip. It'll be Wednesday
Okay.
for the brew.
Gotcha.
That'll be double IPA. We had an anniversary beer. It was just a regular IPA called Radar Love, and we've got enough IPAs. We wanted to do something that had some of those same flavor characteristics, but do it in a double. And this might have been my mistake because it's called Arizona Strong Beer Festival, and I think, in my mind, that meant we had to make it like a big beer. And I talked to the people at the guild. Apparently, they're trying to get away from that sort of concept and get into more of like it's about the strength of the community. So that's
that.
why we kind of went big on these beers, but apparently we didn't really need to. So anyway, we're going to take Radar Love, which is basically going to be sort of a West Coast double with a lot of Citra in it, because the beer that we made, Radar Love, people really, really liked. And so we're just going to try and play with the things we liked about that beer and the things we didn't, and just make it bigger. And so that is going to be called, what we think, just tentatively called Wide Open Throttle.
Ooh.
Again, I was going with the sort of
What was it?
big Wide Open Throttle.
Okay.
You
I like that.
So we're not married to it, but when I had to register for the festival, they needed a name. I was like, all right, this is it.
Wait, why isn't this here? We changed the name.
Yeah, exactly.
What does the name Radar Love come from? Anything specific?
Yeah, it's a Golden Earring song from the 70s, kind of a
Radar
rock
Love.
and roll song.
You've heard Radar Love, yeah.
I've been
Sing it,
driving all night, my hands wet on the wheel.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay.
It's a driving song.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a
Radar
cool one.
Love.
We're all going to be playing Golden Earring
Yeah.
in sync tomorrow.
Well, what is so? What's the name of the smoked Scotch ale? Do you guys have a name for it yet?
I don't believe so.
Results are inconlusive.
That's a long name.
We're think
I like that one. Results are conclusive. I mean, that's what I have a gift for beer names. They're maybe not good, but I have a full list of horrible beer names.
We'll have to throw some around tonight.
It's tough, man. You spend all this time on like a really good beer name, and you put it on a beer that flops, and then you're like, oh,
Right?
I wasted
Can't
that
do
one.
that again. Yeah.
Totally know that feeling. Yep.
So, a little bit about. We talked about this we did a roundtable with Discover Flagstaff, but I mean, these beers are being made to be released during Arizona Beer Week, right? So, Jeff, you said this is your first year. When did you move here?
Year and a half ago.
Year and a half ago. Okay, so
Yeah.
you were at Beer Week last year.
Yep.
I had a Beer Week, but from what I've heard, this is the first beer week since 2019 that's actually a full-on beer week, or maybe 2020. Do you go out and enjoy yourself on Beer Week in Flagstaff?
Yeah, I try to, but I got a 2.5-year-old right now,
Oh,
and a 5-month-old. So
yeah.
getting out doesn't happen all that often right now.
Yeah.
But strong. I was able to make a strong beer festival last year.
Yeah.
As serving or as a guest, to go and drink and
I was
enjoy
doing
yourself?
both.
Okay.
Jeff Sr. joined us.
Oh yeah,
nice.
yeah. The
Yeah.
pops was in town, and left the wife and kid with my mom.
Yeah.
And me and my dad had a great time. At the end of the festival, he was all gung ho about tearing down the booth, helping everybody
Not
out.
proper way. Just I want to break something right now.
No.
People's elbow right into it.
That's a great idea, by the way. I got to bring my dad to Strong Beer Fest. He'd be stoked to get out of the house and do all this crap I don't want to do.
You should.
Totally.
We should
I
do
brought
that.
my dad.
Oh yeah,
My dad would
Our
love it,
dads
too.
were hanging out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Well,
great.
so his dad was a Coors rep, and my dad used to be an Anheuser-Busch rep back in the day, but he only serviced fraternities in St. Louis.
Really?
Isn't that chaotic?
That was his market?
Wow.
Only frats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was sustainable for him. He could.
That was a
In-
full time
in
job.
Springfield,
apparently.
Missouri,
Yeah.
in the late, early '80s. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Nice. Well, okay. So, what does Mother Road have in store on tap for Beer Week?
we're still putting these plans together.
Okay. That's right. You only have about 4 weeks. So.
4 weeks, 5 weeks. We've got. It's just beer.
You better get brewing.
Yeah.
Enough time to brew a batch of beer.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, this was the peak of our Beer Week goals, really
Yeah.
to collaborate with not only an Arizona brewery, but a brewery that we had a similar culture with, and really just be able to tell a good story
Yeah.
to our guests. But other than that, we'll kind of pepper events throughout the valley. We try to have a nice spread between East, West, Northern, and Tucson.
Okay.
So my recommendation is just to keep your eyes on the Guild's website. That's where
Sure.
most of us are uploading our events. So.
Okay.
we'll do some fun stuff. Hopefully some pairing dinners, something, some tap takeovers. Hopefully just a nice blend.
Yeah. I dig it. What about you guys down in Tucson? What are you guys up to?
This is where the B- comes in.
Nay.
I got as far as, all right, we're releasing this beer. We're having the release party. I'm pouring beers at the festival, trying to make sure that everything's ready to go for distribution after that. That's kind of as far as I got. Although we also are kind of bringing out our Italian Pilsner. I'm super proud of this beer. I love this beer. I want it to be a year-round beer, and I want to spread it far and wide, but it's a lager, and we're a small-time brewery, so the real estate in the tank, I haven't got there quite yet, but we will be serving that at the festival also. So.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So people have asked me this question before, and I haven't even been able to give them a straight answer. I have a background brewing German-style Pilsners. What makes an Italian Pilsner?
Well, it's kind of, okay, so it's I would call it an emerging style. It should be a classic style, but it's not. What you would call an Italian Pilsner previously would be sort of any sort of European adjunct lager that's made in Italy, right? But that is not what. There was one brewery, and I can't think of the name of the brewery, but the beer was called Tipo Pils, and it was basically a clean Pilsner. Basically, and I believe this. I could be wrong. We might get comments. Just got to take them on the chin. I believe it was like a Czech style Pils that's been lightly dry hopped.
Okay.
So that's kind of the thing. So it's just like. Again, it feels like a classic beer, and different places do it different ways. Like I think we were talking about the Fort Point one.
Oh yeah.
I think they use, North American hops, so it almost feels like a super light IPA. Ours we use like Hallertau Blanc, I think. We use a lot of traditional sort of European hops, so to me it tastes like a European beer, even though it's not a classic European style. Like it feels like when I drink our version and some of the other ones, depending on the hops that are used, to me it feels like a beer that should have been made in Europe for the last 500 years. It just hasn't been.
But it tastes fresh.
Oh yeah, exactly. It really does. Like I drink ours, I feel like Julie Andrews in The Sound of Music, like loping through the Alps, right? So
The Italian.
that might be my weird my weird thing, but
It is. It's fine.
And what's that beer called, the Italian Pilsner?
Super Leggera.
Super Leggera.
Yeah, that's Italian for super light.
Okay.
It's a racing thing. So Aston Martin made one. I mean, a million car makers have made one. You took a road car and stripped it out of all unnecessary weight to make it super light. So Super Leggera.
Great name.
Yeah.
Love it.
No, I love that. I mean, and this is why you guys connected is the branding, focus on the cars, right? That side of things. So for you, and I know you've been a guest on the podcast before, and I
Thanks
can't
for having
remember.
me back.
Yeah, it was a tough one. I was like, Jeremy
Again with this.
No, we had a great time down there, and I'm super impressed with their tap room and what they're doing. Like with the both Mother Road and MotoSonora, and the branding is just so on point, and it's iconic, right? You guys are obviously newer than Mother Road, but it seems like you guys have been around for a long time. You guys make great beers.
That's a very nice compliment. Thank you.
I'm just saying it because the camera's on, but so how did that happen? Obviously you can hear the whole story if you go back and listen to it. If I remembered episode numbers or if I numbered them correctly from the beginning, I could reference back to, Jeremy but just look up MotoSonora on a previous episode to hear the whole story. But a little bit of how did you guys come up with the branding for MotoSonora?
Ooh, okay, so what starts there's sort of like an inflection point, and for us it was 2010 in South Africa. We went, or Botswana, definitely Southern Africa. I don't remember where we were at that point, but we've always been beer nerds and we've always been into beer, and part of traveling is experiencing new beers along the way. And I kind of told the story over and over again, but I'll kind of tell the short version now. Like if I fly from Phoenix to Dallas and I stay in a chain hotel and I have an American adjunct lager, that is not a traveling experience.
Right.
But if I drive from Phoenix to Dallas, and particularly if I do it in a car that's of questionable mechanical stability, I guarantee the beers that you're going to encounter along that way, if you're a beer person, are going to be different and more interesting. And that trip is going to be a more memorable experience for you. And so we were in South Africa and we had rented these trucks, and one guy wanted the Land Rover Defender, the iconic African safari vehicle, because it would just look so cool in photos. And,
Nice.
and they're pretty butch, when they work. I ended up, kind of bunting and going with a Toyota diesel with a 1,000-mile fuel tank. and I think there was one other car. I can't remember what it was. But anyway, and so we're driving through Africa, and Africa has a ton of German immigrants, so there's a lot of like African breweries that I'd never heard of. And so as we're camping and talking, and, well, what beer did you buy at that store? Oh, I bought this thing from Namibia, and I bought this thing from Kenya, and I bought this thing from Botswana, and, and oh, by the way, what happened with your car today, whatever. Like those sorts of stories with the beer and the vehicles and the travel, are the fabric of travel and adventure. And so that was where we started. And then for the actual name itself, we wanted something that sounded local, because craft beer is kind of a local thing, that was on brand for us, but also would sound cool even if you didn't know what it was. And so after, 150 tries of trying to figure something out that sounded good, that wasn't already taken,
right.
We ended up like sort of creating this sort of word that didn't exist before, MotoSonora. And then the cool thing was when we went to the trademark office, when they approve your trademark, they also give you translations so that you're protected in other languages. And they go, well, in Italian and Spanish, as far as they could tell, MotoSonora means the sound of engines.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Let's go.
So cool.
That is awesome. I did not know that part of it.
Yeah, it was
cool.
a big bonus.
And do you guys treat it as one word? MotoSonora?
It depends. Like on the shirts, it breaks down into two. A lot of times if I write it, I do it as one word, but with a capital S.
Okay.
Because like my last name, De Concini, D-E, capital
Right.
C, so it kind of seems kind of Italian.
Right.
I don't know. We're really just kind of making this up as we go along.
Moto di Sonora.
Yeah.
It's a Di Serono, right? Well, and so now typically, Michael's been Michael Marquis, the founder, owner, CEO of Mother Road, one of my favorite people ever. Very first podcast I ever did was right on the other side of that wall on the patio in November of 2016. Me and
Wow.
Michael. Yeah, I was so my wife even still jokes. She's like, "You were so nervous." And when she dropped me off, and she's like, "When I got there, she's like, you were having a blast." I'm like, well, I probably had
that's
like
awesome.
5 beers, right?
Like your first day of kindergarten.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Come back.
But Michael made it so easy, like just his storytelling and just his demeanor. So he's been a guest on the podcast multiple times. So I always get the story from him, but from you, would you share the story of Mother Road and its attachment to the cars?
Well,
He's not looking at you. He's like, nope, this is on you.
no, this is all on secondhand hearing from Michael, but just on a road trip with the family and maybe not totally passionate about the careers they both had at the time, and so kind of on the road trip we're questioning how to combine their passions of the Southwest and traveling and beer and classic cars, and it was decided that night that they would open a brewery. He said the answer in the car was a resounding yes, and little did he know that sentence would define the next decade.
Ah, yeah.
So other than that, I think it's kind of a blur, but Red Cup makeshift brewery for a very long time. We've just been making things work, but like most breweries, we're just putting things together until they work. And
sounds like Jeremy's road trips, right?
Well, and ironically, like I was living in Flagstaff practicing law here when they opened originally.
wow.
And I came into this space when the tanks were like, I can't remember exactly, but it was tight. Like everything was the whole brewery was just kind of this space and the tap room and everything. It was really cool.
Yep.
You had the basketball court over there. You could shoot baskets, but you weren't allowed to take beer, or else Cedar would hunt you down and yell at you.
And he will ninja star a
He
coaster
will.
at you. That will just get you. But yeah, we've been lucky to transform this space so many times, and I think it's never looked better.
Yeah. When I see as the brand continues to evolve, the more early on it was the bottles, like the not the tall normal bottles, it was like the fat bottom bottles that you guys had, the Twin Arrow,
Twin Arrows,
Twin Arrows. And I can't remember what the other ones were, but it was always the focus on on the cars and the Route 66 and a lot of focus on cars. But as this place starts to get more built out, like the lights that are hanging down have hubcaps on them, right? The hubcaps on the walls, and you go into the brewery and they're named after classic cars.
Yep.
Like I saw Studebaker Fermenter or something like that.
Auburn.
Right?
Auburn, yep.
So are you a car guy?
No.
No.
I don't claim any knowledge of cars or anything.
Okay.
I mean, this is America. Like, even if you don't think you're a car guy, you probably are.
Right.
Because everyone gets around by cars, and everyone lives and dies by their cars, and they sit in cars all the time. So, like, I've got a cousin who's just had a Prius, and all he cared about was getting like his maximum mileage on his Prius. He would never claim to be a car guy. I was like, dude, it might not sound like it, but you're a performance driver. Now your metric of performance is a little different than mine, but you're like really spending a lot of mental energy thinking about how to get the mileage that you want. So like in his mind, he wasn't a car guy, but he kind of was.
Right.
What do you got? You got to like, let's hear it.
What do you drive?
I was all excited. I drove a '99 Ford Escort for like 17 years.
Nice.
Wow.
Finally got rid of that. Bought a nice new car, Subaru Crosstrek, and then when we had kids, my wife was like, "Yeah, that's the safer car. I'm taking that." So
now what do you got?
a 2009 Hyundai Elantra.
Woohoo!
Yeah,
Hey, that's Old Faithful.
Hey, I get to work each day.
Exactly.
You know, it works.
Exactly.
So.
Well, I think it was the Hyundai Veloster, which is to me a terrible name. I think 2 years ago was like Road and Track Sports Car of the Year against Ferraris and Porsches and all these other like high dollar cars because they factored value in. So I mean, Hyundai as a car company is really kind of doing some things. So if you can smoke Porsche and Ferrari in a road test, maybe that filters down to the Elantra. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not smoking anything in this car.
Jeff's only smoking malt.
Right.
No.
Yeah, you put the malt by the exhaust pipe, maybe we got a chance.
All right, we're going to take a quick break to refill our beers, and then we'll be right back. All right, we're back. And you know what? I was kind of tired of those folks, so I'm like, get out. We need some fresh faces here. So
I thought that's because we slipped you a 20 to get on to Be Famous.
Oh, I thought that was 100. Dang. Yep.
Well, you got to look closer when you palm the bill. You got to look at it first.
All right. A little more. No, guys. First of all, thanks for having us up for this. This is a really, really cool project collaboration that you guys are doing. But before we get started, as a part 2 of this episode, let's meet everybody. So, who are you, and what do you do with the company you're with?
So my name is Jeff DiConcini. I'm one of the co-founders of MotoSonora Brewing Company from Tucson, Arizona. I'm really sort of Jeremy DiConcini's backup partner. Okay. He's the one that brought the inspiration and the soul to the project, and I just sort of back him up as needed.
From the sounds of it, you're the one that basically keeps shit in line.
I'm the one behind the scenes that keeps the building up. Tries to
look
anyway.
He's giving. He's like,
yeah.
Michael Marquis, the co-founder of Mother Road Brewing.
Excellent. And
I'm Dennis Alonzo. My business card says Ambassador of Ale, and I'm also on the board of directors.
Excellent. He's been a fixture of this place ever since I think he was here for the first episode, right? Might have been just chilling in the background, but
probably lurking about.
That's what I special.
and now he's my boss.
Yeah. That's what you've been building up to this whole time, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is really exciting what you guys are doing. I mean, it's there's collaborations, and then there's what you guys are doing, right? The whole trip, brewing at 2 different places that are, what is it? How many? 400 miles away? Wait, 260.
250.
I looked at
250.
Yeah, okay. Like, well, my math was really bad. But you guys are making a smoked Scotch ale. That's interesting.
Yes.
Why?
Believe it or not, Mother Road Brewing makes other beers besides Tower. It's a true story.
I thought it was Tower Station Brewing Company.
It seems that way, but our brew team, they really kick ass. We have 14 beers on tap right now at the tap room, and they are making a ton of incredible beers.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to break out of what people expect from Mother Road and make something unique with smoked malt, smoked hops. We've got all sorts of neat things going on.
Yeah, that was really impressive for me when I came in. As you got what is there, like 4 of the standards that are at the top, the Tower Station, and then the beers like this one, Fuel Up. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Fuel Up. This is fantastic. This is a hazy, right? A little more hazy than the limited visibility.
Yep. Well, the new limited visibility. We finally cracked the code and have a stable haze on that one. So we reformulated that beer, and the new formula is rolling out right now into the trades.
Nice. Very cool.
Yeah,
it's
that
a
was
great
one.
Beer.
It no longer says shake well before opening.
We don't have the retailers merchandise them upside down,
We're still trying to get to that point. We still have our kegs turned upside down, our hazy, because we're getting there. We'll get there eventually.
Hey, we have got trade secrets now.
Oh, good. We'll talk later about those.
Steal from the best, right? Or ask people that have been at it a little longer.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
There you go.
Exactly. Well, so how do you keep the haze? Like, right. That is so it doesn't fall out. And I guess we could have put Jeff under the microscope earlier.
We love to harass people like that. If you want to get into the molecular science, yes, Jeff can do that. But for us, we changed a little bit of our temperature in the mash, and then we switched over to a new yeast strain. Yeah. That worked a little bit better for us. That is keeping some of those proteins in solution.
Okay, excellent. Wow, you guys.
I mean, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's science.
Sure.
Best beers are the combo of both.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, speaking of that, I was very glad to see Lost Highway on on tap. Is that what you got? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Back in the day, the 20-ounce Lost Highways on the patio. Ooh, that can make for a fun afternoon.
Yeah, it's so much fun to bring it back as a seasonal. Stephanie drags me out in the trades from time to time, and I try to listen very carefully to our consumers and our accounts. And I swear, the last trip through Tucson, I don't know what it is about you Tucson folk.
Mm-hmm. He's like, where are you going to go with
We
this?
like being there, that's for sure.
We went to 8 accounts that day. And they set up the best route. Every buyer was there, every key decision maker. 8 for 8. I was scolded for not having Lost Highway. And I said, okay, we'll bring it back as a seasonal. And we were joking with the crew internally, if this doesn't sell, I'm going to go just nuts. Happily, the first 100-barrel batch obviously was gone immediately, so we brewed a second 100-barrel to get us through the season. So thank you, Arizona, for knocking me about the head and reminding me how tasty this beer is.
Oh, it's so good. It is a very good beer.
I've worked a bunch of beer festivals, and without a doubt, it is the number one question was, even after it had been out of the market for quite a while, where's Lost Highway? How come you don't have Lost Highway? Where can I find Lost Highway? It more than every other question combined.
Yeah.
Well, absence makes the liver grow fonder.
It does. Yes.
You were waiting to use that.
Just kept it in his pocket for 2 months. Someday I'm going to pull this out. Today's the day. Right.
Well, so we talked a little bit before, and I kind of put Stephanie on, literally in the spotlight to ask her about, like, we'll talk about MotoSonora here in a minute, but the Mother Road focus on classic cars, right? Like, what is the why such an involvement with classic cars? And
it really you've got to blame having a single mom for this, right? Because that meant I spent a ton of time at my grandparents.
Okay.
My grandfather restored classic cars. He loved old Fords, but he'd do other things, Chevys. He had a pair of Auburns for a while that were absolutely magnificent. So I grew up from the time I was about 3. I had my own coffee cup out in the garage.
Okay.
And learned very colorful language, how to grab the wrong wrench and get yelled at, all of those great things. But it led me to a love of motoring and working on old vehicles.
Okay.
Which translated really nicely into building a brewery from scratch, because mechanics is mechanics no matter what you do.
Sure. Yeah.
But that's really where it came from. And when I chose to come to Flagstaff for college in '92, how delightful that Route 66 runs through Flagstaff.
Yeah.
It's a great place for motoring. It's one of those things. It's my grandparents. It's the car club. I just love the culture of cars. Car people are really cool people.
Which you're a car guy.
I'm a car guy too, so it's been a good fit. I drove up today in a 1977 Ford truck. I paid $700 for.
Dang.
This was its first road trip.
Oh, so you just bought this thing?
No, I've had it for a while.
Oh, okay.
Never on the highway.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. So from Phoenix?
Yes. And then tomorrow to Tucson, so it's going to be a 600-mile test drive.
Wow. Are you expecting...
So far, so good.
Yeah.
Don't jinx me.
We've got all the extra oil and the tools, right? You got tools?
Sure.
Okay.
Just bring beer. Bring beer and the phone number for roadside assistance.
There you go. So what else? Like, have you always been into cars, Dennis? Like
I have been.
Cars? Yeah.
So, like Michael has the Ford. Pardon the pun. The Ford Focus. So do I. My dad was a Ford dealership mechanic.
Okay.
I grew up around Fords. You know, he had an old Bronco back in the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've always liked old cars and old bikes and old things and Route 66 and
Yeah.
so just the street right behind you here, a few feet, was Route 66. And
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much part of the story, and for it to be, it's not like, oh yeah, you know, Route 66, 5 miles up that way. It's like,
No, it's out that window, a foot behind your
7
head.
feet behind you.
I mean, it is
Right
hard.
there.
It is hard to imagine because this building was built about 1925, and to think of by the Dust Bowl era of the 30s, we had Okies and people traveling west for a better life right in front of our building.
Yeah.
And that's very humbling, and we've always tried to have that spirit of looking for something better in our beers.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and you guys too, with the MotoSonora, like Jeremy talked about the story of like how you guys you're traveling in Africa, right?
Sure. But even before that, before even Africa, traveling for both of us, you know, on land before it was even called overlanding was always a thing for us, right?
Yeah.
Jeremy mentioned, you know, flying from point to point, and there's something very distant about getting in the magic flying tube and transporting yourself somewhere else. But if you can literally connect the dots to a place and tell all the stories along the way, that makes for such a better story and such a better adventure, and that really is more than half the adventure of wherever you're going. And so that sort of came along with the Africa story and traveling in different beers in different places, and that's sort of what brought us to this theme for this brewery.
Yeah, I dig it too. Have you been to their tap room yet? Is this gonna be your first?
This will be my first time because they had the stellar timing of opening 3 days before
3
before
days.
COVID locked everything
3
down.
days before the shutdown. And actually, to be honest with you, we didn't even really open. We had our soft opening on March 14th. We were scheduled for a grand opening on the 21st, but we never got there because I think the shutdown was the 17th or something like that. Someday we're going to have a grand opening. Someday.
I think you should just do one for the hell of it.
Just on some weird Thursday.
Just random.
Right?
And just
Don't
do
tell
it.
anybody. Right.
Make it a big deal.
Right.
Actually, you just blow the thing up as if it's brand new.
Any silver coin, any beer night. This is our grand opening. Right.
Copper coin night.
You remember that?
Yeah,
right? Yes, you're right.
the
I also
Redwood-
was up here at school at NAU in the 90s. So
Yeah.
What is Copper Coin Night?
No. It was silver coin night,
any silver coin,
and it was
any beer.
and it was at the Redwood.
Yes, well done.
Yeah.
Your memory's very impressive.
The
by
Redwood
the way.
on 4th was a rough place where
We used to get into Tommy's Volkswagen bus from our house in O'Leary and drive over there for those
God.
nights.
Wow.
and 2-3 beers, you'd be good and ready, and you'd have to call a friendly cab back then because this was before Uber and Lyft.
Tommy never drank. He always got us all the way back home. It was great.
Yeah,
That's a good friend.
Yeah, great friend.
that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're going to be very impressed. I love your guys' tap room. I mean, the big beer garden, but like the vehicles, you still have the vehicles on site?
Yeah, we have a couple bikes inside, and on any given day, you never know what's going to be on what we call the Concourse de Moto. It's a big concrete strip we have in the beer garden. We bring anything from food trucks to sometimes old NSXs back there, sometimes Range Rovers, but there's hopefully always stuff there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Yeah.
Actually, when we pull in, we'll probably bring all of our cars in there on the concourse.
We
yeah.
obviously
Perfect.
we need more space here in our parking lot, right? Jeez,
You do.
I'm so excited about this concourse.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's only 3 cars deep. Don't get too excited. That's right.
But you're right. It's so funny that we have our 2 breweries and it's taken us this long to get together.
Yeah,
I mean, we are
yeah.
just like kindred spirits on this road
It was
trip.
inevitable. No matter how long it took, it was going to happen.
It was going to happen.
Had you guys met before? Like, had you guys met before this?
We're trying to make a connection because we were both here in the early 90s.
Yeah.
We got really close during the filming of Forrest Gump, but we're not quite there making the one-on-one
We-
connection.
at lunch today, we were
Yeah.
within, I would say, probably 100 feet of
yeah,
each
a few
other.
yards for sure.
And
During
Yeah.
the filming of the Forrest Gump scene where they run downtown.
where they ran right
Yeah,
through
we were both there
Flagstaff.
for that.
You
yeah.
guys were both there.
Because we were
Yeah.
both in college at that time.
Yeah. Look at that. It's full circle.
We'll get there.
It was meant to be.
Yeah, I got to visit a few weeks ago, and I was buying an old car, a rusty Ford Mustang.
Yeah.
Brought us straight to the brewery on a trailer.
I did. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is a fit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We made a love connection.
Yeah. Well, in the beer too, right? Like, I mean, you can have this great, this great tap room and all of this, but you gotta come through on the product as well.
Got
You
to be
guys
good
do
liquid.
that.
There's no doubt about it.
Yep. You guys make some great beers down there.
Thank you. We're trying.
Tomorrow, or Wednesday at Double West Coast. You guys gonna be making
Ish.
West Coast-ish.
Yeah.
Double-ish or
Definitely
West Coast?
double-ish. Definitely double West Coast-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean?
It means probably fruitier than your standard West Coast,
Okay.
but not as fruity as a hazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dennis, I was going to ask you too. How did you get involved with Mother Road?
It really started with drinking beer.
Okay, just coming in as a coming in as a guest.
regular.
Yeah.
And the taproom manager, finally one day she's like, "Why the hell aren't you an investor here?" And she slapped down the prospectus in front of me, and the rest is history. And then at the time, shortly thereafter, after I invested, Tower Station came along, which you may have heard of.
Heard of? Yeah.
Okay.
That's a brewery down the street, right? No.
And at the time, Mother Road really didn't have much in the way of sales people.
Yeah.
And so as accounts in the Phoenix area started hearing of Tower Station, wanting it, and not being able to get it, I think I did a lot of, soothing of hurt feelings. And
I thought it was called guerrilla marketing.
there you go.
Hi, we have this delicious beer, and you can't have it.
Right.
It's so good.
But
you
here's a
just don't know.
T-shirt.
Yeah.
Don't get mad at us.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis was on the apology tour for a long
That-
while.
right.
What year did Tower Station come out?
We put that out in October of 15.
15. Okay, that was a while ago.
Pretty soon thereafter, it hit the fan.
Yeah.
We didn't know. I mean, we brewed an unfiltered IPA. We all liked it. We liked the art. I mean, everything about the beer we kind of liked. But if
You just never know if it's going to catch.
no,
you don't
no,
know.
we
Right.
had no flipping clue. If anyone were ever to tell you from Mother Road that we knew this was a home run, there is no freaking
You're
way.
definitely lying.
This was a great beer. Now, we knew we had something 'cause we, before COVID, we took the crew up to Paonia Hop Fields for a summer retreat every year. We'd go camping, and we took a bunch of these beers. They were unmarked. They were silver cans because we were still hand labeling, pressure-sensitive labels at that point. And it was also a year we took the kids, and it was where we came up with the term Tower Housed. Because we started drinking these tower stations at 8,000 feet up in Paonia. We're playing disc, we're playing games, we're riding mountain bikes.
That'll do it.
And all of a sudden, it's dark up there in the middle of summer. We haven't fed any of the kids that were on the camp out, 'cause that's before we had stopped bringing kids. Oh my God, the kids drank, or the kids didn't drink anything, but they ate a lot of burnt dinner. And even Campbell, he bought these beautiful peaches to make peach cobbler in a Dutch oven. We burnt that, so we were passing around a Dutch oven and scraping the non-burnt areas out. That's how we knew Tower Station was a hit, because we were able to drink and enjoy it and have a blast with it.
Yeah.
But we had no clue making it. We just thought this was our first IPA, because we had never competed on IPAs before. There were too many good ones out there, and quite honestly, we were scared to make one.
Why? Like, just because you want to make sure you're doing it right?
Well, go back to 2015. I mean, we had White Walls, which was their extra pale ale, which was the forerunner to Tower, which was loved, but there were so many good IPAs. Everyone was doing an IPA, and I was nervous to put one out. I wanted it to be good, and we waited a long time. I mean, we went 4 years without an IPA on our menu.
Now that I look back, that
seems unbelievable at this point.
But that's
'Cause nobody would open a brewery
because that's 2011 to
without
2015.
having 2 or 3 IPAs on right now.
Yeah.
So but Lost Highway was before.
Well, that was a black IPA, but that's different. Or a Cascadia Dark if you want to be from Portland or whatnot.
I don't, so it's fine. So that's really interesting, right? Because I know in the Arizona Beer Book we highlighted Tower Station, and to get that story from you was great. And there was an involvement with the guests as well, right? Wasn't there a lot of like the consumer side of it that helped you guys create this?
Yeah, we went through 6 renditions, and that was on the old 3-barrel pilot system. And every 2 weeks we'd roll a new rendition of Tower out, and they would compare 1 against 2, 2 against 3, and
we had actual ballots with pencils.
Yeah.
For people to vote.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd give them a 10-ounce beer if they would give us feedback. And that
they were allowed to write notes.
They would write notes.
Right? Yeah,
and there were 5 questions. They had to circle a number, and then they could write freehand notes. And then the following morning at 10, the brew team would meet with Alyssa and I, and we'd go over our tasting notes, and then we'd adjust the recipe and brew that day.
That's awesome. I love that. Like a beer for the people, by the people, right?
I'm not sure that would be correct, because we had a guy in here that used to come in and say, I need you to brew the people's beer, and I need it to be $1 a pint. He was an old hippie. He was pretty awesome. He even had a 60s VW van that he'd troll around in. It was pretty cool.
So the people's beer, what is it? Because there is a beer called the people's beer, right?
Is there?
Yeah, it was that there's a brewery in Oakland, I think, that they started to basically, this guy was like I think he was the first black brewery owner in the country in Milwaukee, and he brewed this beer called the People's Beer.
Was it $1 a pint?
Yeah,
I don't know if it was. It might have been. I mean, back in the day, maybe
adjusted for inflation.
For sure.
I like this $1 a pint thing, but
yeah, that you should go bring back the silver coin night.
Everybody just take it easy. Let's slow down a minute. We all need to keep the lights on. This is my job here to worry about this kind of crap.
That's right. Yeah, it is.
yeah. Yeah. Oh man, if only we could. Yeah, it's a really different animal right now, and we were talking about this at lunch, that the economics of beer, it is really tough right now. Small brewers are facing just some really tough challenges. Increases, aluminum was bad last year. This whole, I'm going to say it, frack you, Vladimir Putin, for invading Ukraine, because you've messed with malt in the U.S. It's crazy that global things have spiked. I think our malt contract went up 30% this year.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough time to be brewing. So as much as I'd love to have $1 a pint, I'm with you. We got
probably not going to happen.
I want to keep paying our crew very well, right, and keep their 401ks stocked and all that. So we got to do what's right for the crew and the company. But maybe someday.
No, someday.
Maybe it's a silver dollar night.
Maybe it's a silver dollar hour.
But it has to be a real silver dollar.
Oh, absolutely. They're going to have
made
to
of
find silver dollars.
Yeah, we will
somewhere, right?
Eisenhower silver dollar.
Yeah. Or Susan B. Anthony, right? Is that that's a half dollar.
They do have dollar small coins, though, don't they?
I think they do.
Yeah.
They did.
Sacagawea, absolutely, yeah.
Yep. So that's an interesting thing, right? Because Mother Road's been open since 2011, right?
Yep.
MotoSonora has been open since 2020.
Almost 3 years, not quite. Yeah, 3 years in March.
So you guys, I mean, they've seen the rise, and they've seen the craft beer explosion. You guys have just been in the game since
they are light years ahead of us. Yeah. Light years in so many ways. We are still a very new brewery. I mean, really, this is our first year in the pseudo real world,
sure,
and it's still not even the real world, because things are changing all the time. Inflation, cost of goods, minimum wage, all these things are factors in daily operations, and it's changing a lot.
Is that a lot of stress for you as the man behind the scenes, making sure this thing stays afloat?
That is my job, to worry about that, and I do it really well. Yeah.
So, I mean, how have you guys continued to keep it rocking, right? Because Mother Road, you've got beers on, you see their beers everywhere, right? So they've got this presence in the market. You guys are still trying to fight and claw your way through. What have been some of the things you guys have done to help to keep the
biggest
dream
thing is signing with Hensley a few months ago. That's nice. And getting our distribution game up and rolling, and we're still playing catch up with those guys right now. We're trying to make as much beer as they're asking for, and so that's the thing that'll keep us alive and take us to the next level, is distribution, for sure.
Yeah. Now, when you guys opened, was the plan my buddy Marshall at Simple Machine, he didn't have a plan to package, maybe to do like a little hand canner, right? But then COVID hit, and he's like, shit, I better start, right? And now he's got some of the more prevalent cans on some of the beer stores, right? He just got into like Total Wine. So for you guys, was canning part of the game plan from the beginning?
It was always a long-term part of the game plan, but that obviously changed immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, we literally had a crowling machine from Dixie show up 4 or 5 days after we opened, and we burned the wheels off that thing. Really? Hand delivering crowlers anywhere across town, because that was our packaging line, was that one crowler machine. And then we had Mobile West come in, like everyone did, and we sort of spun up that way. And we just acquired our own canning line, and so we're now moving that way. And so like I said, we're a long way behind where Mother Road is, but we're going down, I assume, similar steps.
No, you're much quicker to the game, because
of panic and fear.
No, we were still using mobile canning up through 2016 until we bought
really?
our own canning line.
Oh, wow, okay.
So you're doing great. Don't ever compare yourself. Just play your own game and do
Motto
very
is
well.
still open. That's our motto. Still open.
Still open.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Pay checks,
There you
still
go.
cash.
Exactly, right. Everyone's getting paid. Still selling beer. Right.
I mean, you laugh, but that is, I would say, as the CEO of the company, that is my greatest fear, is letting down, 40-some employees, letting down the shareholders, letting down the bankers. I mean, there is a constant pressure because it's an economic game. I mean, I love the art of beer. I love the flavors. I love the taste. I love the whole culture.
And the people. The people in beer are amazing.
It's magnificent, but at the end of the day, if you don't keep the doors open, it's all for naught.
Yeah, 100% accurate.
And that's a hard. It's a hard thing sometimes to balance the art and joy of beer against the harsh realities of a balance sheet and an income statement.
A lot of tears over P&Ls. Yeah.
That's a beer name right there. Tears over P&Ls.
Tears over P&Ls. There you go.
Okay, that's going to be the second collab beer.
Oh, that's a good idea. That's a great idea. Nice work. Yep.
So, well, to wrap this up, we're gonna get this thing wrapped up. Very excited for these beers to come out. Today, you guys brewed a smoked Scotch ale, which was, I didn't realize this. This was malt smoked by Jamie at Satchmo's.
Of course,
cold smoked.
Who else would we have him?
For sure.
Come on.
Yeah. He's on my short list of my top my top podcast guests. I want to get him on. I think he'd be a good guest.
Oh, you should absolutely. He's got some stories, and he's picking up a new career right now.
Oh, really?
As the shakeup of the hotel restaurant management school has happened, and Chef Mark is now taking over executive director, Jamie is starting to instruct over there as chef.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. Nice.
Which is really exciting to have him now part of that beer certificate program, and of course part of our food trailer and part of this community. He's a pillar. He gives so much money to this town, so much of his time and expertise. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Jamie, kudos, man. Kudos, for sure.
Yeah, don't be afraid of the microphone.
That's right. And then the double West Coast-ish IPA.
Ish. Emphasis on ish. Yeah.
On the ish, at MotoSonora. And these are both going to be available for Beer Week and at Strong Beer Festival.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll be doing some tap takeovers, I think, and putting some handles of both of our beers besides our main lines, which will be a lot of fun to show off what our respective breweries can do.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks for joining. Thanks for getting us, asking us to get involved with this, and this is exciting. So,
thank you.
I get
Happy to be here.
Get to do what I do best and drink and eat. So, thank you for allowing me to do that.
Cheers.
Have a great day. Thank
Cheers,
you for
guys.
coming.
Yeah, thank you.
enamorado de la negra Tomasa y cuando se va de casa